God's way is to tell the truth about himself. But God has been judged as being untrue and unrighteous. And Paul says, God, may you be shown to be right in what you have said, and win your case when you take it into court. When thou art judged in the Greek can be translated when you take it into court. Did anyone drag God into court? Or would he have to take his own case into court? If God's in court, he took himself there. Nobody has power to drag him into court. So I love the translation, and win your case when you take it into court. Has God won his case? Do you see the court, by the way? Daniel 7. 100 million watch when the court sits in judgment and the books are open. How about in Job? Is not God on trial there? Isn't he accused of being untrustworthy in Job? Think of other places. The universe has been judging God. He has invited his children to examine and investigate his character and his government. For he has been accused. In the Garden of Eden he was accused. Think of other places. Now, has God won his case, and if so, how? How does the infinitely powerful one take his case into court and win? Does he intimidate the jury? Does he bribe the judge? Does he hide the evidence? Does he win on the basis of power or of claims? Does he stand there and say, I have been accused, and I say I'm righteous, and since I'm God, I expect to be believed? Would he win his case? Only by the presentation of evidence and the freely given agreement. Yes, the evidence is on God's side. Only on that basis could God actually win. Now, what evidence would be needed? Well, what are the charges? Genesis, God has lied that death is a result of sin. Then that was developed into that God is a torturing, destroying, wrathful God. Was this answered on the basis not of claims but of evidence? You come right on down to 3:21. Look, leaving out a lot in between. But now the righteousness of God has been revealed, manifested. This is how he won his case. Apart from law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it. Would you agree, going through book by book in the Old Testament, that the Old Testament has borne witness to the truth about God? That's clearly in there, isn't it? The righteousness of God that comes through trusting in Jesus Christ. That is, if we don't trust, if we don't believe that what he revealed is true, we don't have an answer. And this goes on to verse 25, the death of Christ. That the death of Christ answered the questions. And I don't know a version that I like just right, and there's no use reading the Greek. So let me venture a translation. In the fullness of time, God showed his Son publicly dying as a means of reconciliation, an answer to questions. Wait till we get to Ephesians and Colossians. The cross was designed to bring unity, peace, and reconciliation throughout the whole universe, angels and men, the whole family. God showed his Son publicly dying as a means of reconciliation, to be taken advantage of by faith. Of course, if we don't trust this, if it doesn't win us to trust, and God can't force that, let everyone be fully persuaded in his own mind, then we're not convinced and we've learned nothing. But if we think the evidence is enough, God showed his Son publicly dying as a means of reconciliation to be taken advantage of by faith. This death was to demonstrate God's own righteousness, because in his divine forbearance, he had apparently overlooked men's former sins. He did not leave them to die, because it would have been misunderstood till Jesus died. So he apparently overlooked. And his graciousness was mocked by the devil as divine duplicity. See, I told you you wouldn't die, and you haven't, have you? Well, he starved you to death by cutting you off from the tree of life. But in the fullness of time, God showed his Son publicly dying this death. This was to demonstrate his own truthfulness and righteousness. He had told the truth when he said that sin leads to death. This was to demonstrate God's own righteousness, for in his divine forbearance he had apparently overlooked men's former sins. This was to demonstrate that God himself is righteous and therefore can set right, put right, justify, if you prefer the Latin, those who have faith in his Son. And I think that really answers it. The death of Christ is the basis for peace, unity, harmony, reconciliation, all the words that he's going to use in other of his letters. Because God had told the truth about death being the result of sin, but it is not torture and execution of the hands of our gracious God.